The Donald Trump campaign held its Fritz Kuhn Memorial Rally at Madison Square Garden in New York City over the weekend. Is the Garden really that desperate for shows since Billy Joel ended his residency? Sad. Anyway, despite the lineup of the rally featuring such familiar faces as Rudy Giuliani, J.D. Vance, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, Dr. fucking Phil, Elon Musk, and, of course, Donald Trump himself, the speaker who has attracted the most attention is the one who the most people had probably never heard of, stand-up comedian and podcaster Tony Hinchcliffe. Why is everybody talking about Tony Hinchcliffe? Because during his remarks, he said this.
There's a lot going on. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
You can see why that would have upset people, right? One of the people it upset, as it happens, was Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is the child of Puerto Rican parents and identifies as Puerto Rican herself. AOC reacted to Hinchcliffe's floating island of garbage line on a live stream that she was doing with Minnesota Governor and Democratic Vice Presidential candidate Tim Walz at the time, and afterward, Tony Hinchcliffe himself retweeted a clip of AOC and Governor Walz's reaction and said this: "These people have no sense of humor. Wild that a vice presidential candidate would take time out of his busy schedule to analyze a joke taken out of context to make it seem racist. I love Puerto Rico and vacation there. I made fun of everyone. Watch the whole set. I'm a comedian, Tim. Might be time to change your tampon." Zing! Making a tampon joke about Tim Walz. Good one, Tony. Did you write that one yourself? Being as how you're a comedian and all? Also, I can't be racist against Puerto Rico. I vacation there doesn't strike me as an effective defense. By that logic, white slave owners in South Carolina in the 1850s could have said, "Me, racist? Don't be ridiculous. I live with black people." I have my own response to Tony Hinchcliffe, but before I get into that, I want to share AOC's response to Tony Hinchcliffe's response to AOC's original response to his Puerto Rico joke. AOC retweeted Hinchcliffe's retweet of her and said, "You're opening for Trump by calling Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage. 4,000 plus Puerto Ricans died under him. This isn't the Comedy Store. You're using your set to boost neo-Nazis like MTG and stripping women's rights to the Stone Age. Your sense of humor doesn't change that. And before people try to act like this is some PC, overly sensitive nonsense, I've been to Kill Tony shows. I'm from the Bronx. I don't give a shit about crude humor. But don't pretend that your support for Trump is a joke. Own it. You doing a set to support him, that's a choice." There's nothing I can really add to that in terms of a response to Tony Hinchcliffe's response. He can plead comedian all he wants. He can accuse people who have a problem with him of not having a sense of humor, but nothing he can possibly say will change the damning fact that he took the gig. He was offered by Donald Trump's campaign a job of speaking at this rally, of warming up the crowd for Donald Trump and the parade of bigots and fascists and fanatics that preceded him. And Tony Hinchcliffe said yes. He said, "Sure, I'll do it." And as Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez says, that is a choice, and he owns that. So here's what I did. Here's the choice I made. I took Tony Hinchcliffe's advice, and I watched his entire set just to see if he was right. And he had been taken out of context, because honestly, if there is a context in which Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage isn't racist, I would really like to know what that is. Unfortunately, having now watched the entire set, I have to report two things. First, seeing the Puerto Rico line in context doesn't make it any less repulsive. It turns out the context of this one racist joke is a bunch of other racist jokes. doesn't really help. Second, and saddest of all, the Puerto Rico line, it's the best joke in the set. Hinchcliffe speaks for about 10 minutes, and those 10 minutes play like the worst White House Correspondents' Dinner set ever performed. It's like watching someone read rejected monologue jokes from a test episode of Late Night with Tucker Carlson. It's like listening to The Greaseman without music or sound effects. Anybody else remember The Greaseman? It's just me? Probably for the best. Hinchcliffe's set is extremely racist, but it's also extremely weak comedically speaking. His jokes just aren't that good structurally speaking. He even outright blows a few of them by botching the setups, like this one.
Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this.
You see the problem? The punchline is a non sequitur because in the setup, he says, I welcome migrants to the United States. What you need to do for that joke is to find a way to say the with open arms part without also saying welcome. You leave the welcome part implied but unspoken and ambiguous. That way it's open. And then the punchline comes in at the end and closes it in an unexpected way. That's what theoretically makes it funny. That is, in fact, how most jokes work, mechanically speaking. Now, this particular joke would still not be funny because it's ignorant horseshit, but you get what I'm saying as far as the structure of the joke. He could have said, I greet people approaching the border with open arms. I mean like this. And that would still be a garbage racist joke, but it would be competently crafted. At least with that one, you can see what he's going for, even if he fucks it up. With some of his jokes, they barely make any sense at all. At one point, he quips that his mom is a boomer living in Ohio, and there's no convincing her of anything. She's eating the cats. She's eating the dogs. What's the joke even supposed to be there? That his mom is a fucking nitwit? It feels less like an attempted joke and more like a weak excuse to reference Trump's "they're eating the dogs" bit because he knows that that will pop this particular crowd. And that's mostly what the set is, pandering to this extremely racist and xenophobic crowd by telling some weak jokes that align with their worldview and reminding them of stuff that makes them happy. Besides the Puerto Rico is a garbage island line, he makes fun of Latino immigrants, saying that they love to make babies and they don't pull out, they come inside, just like they did to our country. And after that contorted, half-baked pretzel of a line, he has the fucking oblivious gumption to compliment the crowd by saying, Republicans, we're the party that has a sense of humor. He also makes fun of black people, pointing out a black man in the crowd and announcing that they'd recently celebrated Halloween by carving watermelons together. He makes a black people like watermelon joke. Like, how can you make your racist stand-up routine worse? By making it fucking lazy, too. Jesus Christ. And you know the worst part of that? He definitely also had a black people like fried chicken joke in his pocket, but he decided not to use that because he didn't want the set to get too repetitive. Oh, I don't really need both of these. I'll keep the watermelon bit. That's the superior joke. I think Andrew Dice Clay's act was less inflammatory when he played the Garden in 1990. Hinchcliffe flatters Donald Trump, delivering an extended verbal blowjob centered on the assassination attempt over the summer and how awesome Trump is for dodging bullets and asking where his shoes were immediately after the shooting. And then he segues from that straight into a rhetorical filleting of Elon Musk, whom Hinchcliffe calls the world's smartest and richest man. You might be able to say that Tony Hinchcliffe isn't funny, but back-to-back blowjobs, you can't say the dude doesn't have stamina. There are no jokes at all in either of these sections of the set. just Tony Hinchcliffe finding ways to praise Trump and Musk in a somewhat glib tone of voice. You know, comedy. The last bit I want to actually show you is this one, where Hinchcliffe responds to the characterization of this event as a Nazi rally.
Hillary Clinton said that this is a Nazi rally here today. Can you believe that? For the most anti-war president of my entire lifetime, and she calls him Hitler. Let me remind you, Hillary, it was your husband who shot innocent people, or as he called them, interns. Yeah, Hillary, I bet you did not see that one coming.
So Hillary Clinton, among many others, has called this event a Nazi rally, and the way Tony Hinchcliffe, master comedian, tries to rebut that scurrilous charge is by saying Trump is anti-war and then immediately dragging in a Bill Clinton intern joke that passed its expiration date 25 years ago. That's the best he can do? People are calling this event a Nazi rally. People are calling the event that he is speaking at right now a Nazi rally. And that's the best he can do? No reversal? No throwing it back in anybody's face, no attempt to show that it's an absurd statement, which, to be fair to him, he can't really do because it's a fucking accurate statement, but nevertheless, he doesn't even try. Nope, the best he can do is, oh yeah, well, Bill Clinton jizzed on an intern in the 90s. I'm surprised he didn't feel the need to specifically mention the blue dress. In this context, the fact that he didn't qualifies as respecting his audience, I guess. Oh, and the Trump can't be Hitler because he didn't start any wars when he was president bit that Hinchcliffe references there, and that a lot of other Republicans have been saying lately to make Trump seem like some kind of a fucking dove. About that, you know who else didn't start any wars during his first 4 years in power? Hitler. All these dipshits tried to refute the Trump is Hitler charge by referencing all the worst shit that Hitler did, most of which came toward the end of his run. He had to build up to that. But with Trump, they're like, oh, if Trump is so much like Hitler, how come he hasn't started an international war on two fronts and genocided millions of people? As if it's only a valid comparison after Trump's gone full 1945 Hitler. Like 1938 Hitler is nothing to worry about. People don't compare Trump to Hitler because Trump has already done everything that Hitler eventually did. They make that comparison because they're worried that Trump will do more Hitlerish stuff if he gets back in office. And the reason they worry about that is because Trump himself keeps saying that he wants to do that kind of shit. And people who work for Trump keep saying how they can't wait to do some really seriously Hitlerish stuff if they get back in office. And most of us feel that that's the sort of thing you should want to prevent before it happens. If you see a small child developing a morbid fascination with dead animal bones, maybe intervene at that point instead of waiting until they grow into an adult who murders 17 people before you try and do something. Tony Hinchcliffe's 10-minute set at Trump's MSG rally was repugnant, offensive, ignorant, obsequious, lazy, poorly crafted, and not remotely amusing, which meant that it fit right in with the rest of the program. However, due to the flood of negative reactions, the Trump campaign was forced to issue an official response. This from CNN, quote, after the rally, Trump's campaign sought to distance itself from Hinchcliffe, who, like the other speakers, was an invited guest, and his comments about Puerto Rico. This joke does not reflect the views of President Trump or the campaign, Trump campaign spokesperson Danielle Alvarez said in a statement to CNN. Now that's funny.